Hi, today I'm chatting with Kylie Gomez, a teacher in Australia. Kylie has just finished a unit teaching her students to sew softies, and I'm curious to know how it went. Kylie, thank you for agreeing to be the very first guest on my What the Art Teacher Sewed with Her Students chat. Hi, Kylie.
Hi, Trixie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. You've just done a unit sewing with your students, sewing softies with your students. What
Yes.
what did you do? What was the project that you decided to sew with your students?
Sure. So at the moment, I am a STEM teacher, and and I'm also teaching art. So I did this project across three different classes.
Wow.
So I had a year three, a 4-5, and a 5-6. And I chose this project because I love sewing and crafting. And I also chose it because um, I thought it was a really great mix between like our design and technology and our art outcomes as well. And I really loved that part of your focus was on giving back to someone.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that was a really, really lovely aspect. That was probably like one of the things that drew me into that, was that doing something for someone else, and as well like sharing our art with other people.
Yeah, the sharing
So
designs aspect.
yeah, so and I thought that was a really great outcome for our children, was to be doing something for someone else, and to see that joy at the end when they actually gave it to someone.
Did you sew the same project with all the classes, or they were doing different projects, or basically the same idea?
So they were doing basically the same, but I modified it a little bit. So with the year threes, they were buddied up with a year one student, and I walked the year one students through designing something for them to make. So we used a lot of your softies on your website and blog posts as inspiration.
That's great.
So we went through, and this was the same process I went through for my year twos as well, and theirs were sewn by year four. So we looked at them and we had a look at how it was based on a basic shape. And then we added on features like arms and legs and hair and everything. So I was actually surprised at how well the drawings came out. Like the year ones and twos, they really got that concept that it had to be based on something simple.
So that was
And
the shape one. You
the shape,
basically.
yeah. Yep. So I pretty much went through and said, well, we can either pick a circle, a square, a rectangle, a heart, or whatever, or slightly irregular shape. But it needed to be a big enough shape that we could see that it was a body. And they all really got that. They understood that the front would be one color, the back would be another,
Did
because
you
we
give
followed your Zenki style.
Did you give the kids the shape on a template, or the kids drew their own
No,
square?
I just let them draw. I just let them draw their own.
Oh, that was
Yep,
amazing.
just went around and checked. The pictures were awesome. Like I was really surprised.
Kids actually surprise us. We don't expect something that they're going to do, be able to do it well, and then all of a sudden they do anything. Wow! And they didn't need,
Absolutely.
the templates. They were really good. I was going to ask you, had you sewn with your students before this project?
Oh no, I hadn't. I forgot to say, with my 5-6s, I took a slightly different approach with them, and I got them to interview a pre-primary or a kindy student.
Oh wow,
So
that's so
they went
cute.
through, yeah, so I went through a bit more of the design process with them. So they had to go and speak to their little buddy, find out what their favorite colors were, what kind of things they liked. And then they had to take all of that information and actually put it into a design.
Oh well, so
So
the year fives didn't have a drawing to copy. They just
no,
went to the interview. Wow, that's really
yep. So they just went
interesting.
with the interview. Yep. So that senior class, they went and interview. And it was really interesting. It
So
was very cute watching
cute.
it all.
Oh my
But
goodness.
it was interesting. Some kids got a couple of things to work on, and some kids got a massive list of things, and they had
Oh,
to
it's
then,
so cute.
work out which ideas would work best. And so they were the Zenkies that were probably a little bit more complex. So some of those ones had accessories and
Oh,
things stuck to them, whereas our ones and twos, the ones that were done for them, they were a little bit more simple.
yeah, that's amazing. So
Um,
had you
but no, I haven't sewn. I hadn't really sewn
that many
with a
students?
class in that respect. So I have done sewing machine sewing before,
Okay.
and but not hand sewing and not like that, and not with that many students as well.
That's a lot of students. So
it was a lot of students.
Did you have any concerns before you started your sewing unit about what was going to happen in the class?
So I was concerned it was going to be a big flop. So I think probably my biggest concerns were obviously managing classes with large amounts of students in them. I was fortunate that there was some education assistants in 2 of the classes, but not in the year 3 class. So that was a little bit of a worry because they were the youngest group. But I just put a few little strategies in place that really helped to keep those lessons humming along. So one of them being that I wouldn't thread or tie knots in threads. So because that kind of like, otherwise that kind of that freed me up a lot.
Yeah.
And we used our like little experts in the class, and we had some students that were really good at sewing, so we asked them to share their knowledge.
Oh, that was really cool.
And encourage them to seek assistance from someone around them before they came and asked me for that question. So I was there fixing things, fixing threads that had gone the wrong way or knotted, or stuffing that had come out, and I was doing that kind of stuff, not tying thread or threading needles.
Did you do any practice beforehand in getting the kids to thread needles or tying knots?
Yes, we did actually. Your videos I found really useful.
Oh, thank you.
So obviously, like your threading videos and how to tie the knots, how to hide the knot. Like we watched those several times as well. Because obviously when you're showing a class, a needle and a thread is really hard to show lots of kids. So putting it on the big screen, that was really helpful. And then I was able to just sort of pull those ones up that still weren't quite sure, and it was just a small group. So I think that was a really good time saver. And before we launched into the big project, so that they understood how the Zenki design worked, this is actually my little boy's one, his is now actually a pin cushion because we lost our pin cushion.
Oh my gosh, how cute is that?
It is very cute, but he's a little year 3, and so they did a small version of one just on about a quarter of a piece of A4 felt. And so all kids got to make a small one for themselves first, so that I could basically troubleshoot. So that was the time that I went around and really honed in, checking, do they understand the spacing? Do they get the concept of how to cut bits off and leave them?
Yeah, wow.
Can they not? And you can see, I mean, like one there he forgot to go through, but the others look really good. So that was probably, so before they actually sewed their proper one, they did a little one. And that was a really good point to troubleshoot anything that was going on.
Okay, supplies. What supplies did you use with the kids, like needles, threads?
Yeah, so I liked these ones, the chenille birch.
What number did you use there?
18.
18, okay.
Yeah, another teacher put me onto those. I found them really good. They were sharp but not too sharp.
Yes,
and with the needle, the eye of the needle, like fabulous. So definitely recommend those. We actually had a whole heap of like these cross stitch cottons donated to us. So I put those out to be used. And we didn't separate them. We just used them straight like that.
Yeah. Did you roll them? Did you give them to the kids in that little sort of loopy thing, or did you wind them onto cardboards?
I had them on cardboards, and it was kind of a little bit of a disaster. So that's probably what I would do better next time. It did get a bit tangled and messy and things. And we tried to use it was pretty cute. We did your sort of method of, stretch, hold it out, one. And that worked for like the older kids. But then my diddlies, some of my diddlies are really little.
Tiny arms.
And so this were like,
no.
So I had to say to them, well, you're going to have to do two.
Yeah, some of them, yeah. The DMs, when it's on their loops, I know they sometimes get really tangled up.
Yeah. Some did. So that was probably my learning curve, and I hadn't used them. And as well, because I had so many classes back to back using the stuff, it did didn't have that time for me to get in there and quickly fix things up. So basically my classes are butted up against each other. So yeah, so it's pretty full on sometimes. And then we just used the felt A4 pieces from Spotlight.
Yeah.
Some of them were in the pack of like 15, and I think that worked out about, when they were on sale, about 65, 70 cents a sheet. Otherwise we had to actually unfortunately buy some of the single ones because there wasn't a lot on the roll for us. There were some limited colors. So
and those felts worked well. The kids could sew with them nicely, easily.
Yeah, they could work. Yeah, they were quite soft. I did have some other various ones which were a little bit harder.
Yes.
And I also had some left over in the art room that were really soft. And they were a little bit tricky because they were a bit floppy to work with.
The variety of felt is so different.
Yeah.
You get it from like really soft, it's too soft, and then it's so hard and so coarse that the kids actually can't even put their needles through it without like pushing like mad.
So we did have some that was definitely too soft, and found that the softies were quite floppy.
Yeah.
And there was only a few pieces that were a little bit too hard. What I did find was there were some children that wanted to just use a regular cotton because they didn't want like that's, because once they use this, obviously it stands out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they didn't want that, so they used the regular cotton. But what I found was I had to start them off because it was just pulling through because the material was obviously too coarse.
Yeah, I've actually got a video that shows you how to use that cotton, sewing cotton doubled up without tying a knot in it.
Oh, good.
I'm doing a double stitch, so I'll send you the link to that one, so that might help.
Beautiful. Yeah, definitely. So there was only a couple of kids that wanted that, and I was just like, oh, I'll just start you off on that, and then off you go.
Okay. Any supplies that you use that you would not use again or not recommend? Or
well, I didn't have fabric pencils, so that's definitely something. Please don't forget your fabric pencils. What I did was, and I somehow stumbled across it, I don't think it was on one of your videos, someone was using like the Lumacolor.
That's me.
Yeah.
Yes, the white Chinograph pencil, Lumacolor. They've changed the name. Absolutely amazing, because I used the white one.
Only the white one.
Yes.
So I had some which were white, but I had some yellows.
Yeah.
And that, because I didn't have enough whites, some of the kids used like the yellow and it didn't come off.
Yeah.
Whereas the whites seemed to come off.
Yeah.
So I would just be mindful of making sure that you've got that. We use proper fabric scissors as well.
Yeah, makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and for like the little features and things, we just used a hot glue gun.
Okay.
So yeah, we glued those on. That was a time choice. I was a little bit concerned about how long the project was going to take us, as well as some of the ability of some of the kids to be able to sew small pieces on.
Yeah, it's really hard for some of them.
So yeah, so we used a hot glue gun, and that worked really well. That's actually my daughter's one. Hers was designed by a Year 6 student.
Oh,
so cute. Yeah, so very cute. Love that one.
Yeah, the glue gun. Was there anything that surprised you in the class with the sewing?
Yeah, how well it went. Actually, like it actually went really well, and I was really surprised at how like for our Year 3s and 4s who got their design given to them, how close they actually looked.
Yeah,
like they did so well at actually making sure that they gave, we call them their clients, and they gave their client what they actually what they asked for. So, and I think how focused the kids were as well.
Yeah.
And how determined they were to actually get these things finished. So that was really, really fabulous. And I think a little surprising offshoot was that my Year 1s, they knew that these were being sewn and all of the sewing materials were out. And in one of my lessons, they have a little bit of free time, and they kept asking, can we sew? Can we sew? Can we sew? And I was like, oh my gosh.
No, kids just love sewing.
Yeah, so I didn't expect that. And I said, well, yep, and here's your needle, and I will thread it and tie a knot, and you can use anything that's out here, because it was all the felt scraps.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they sewed little things without even being shown stuff. It was amazing. I had no idea that was actually going to happen.
Yeah, it's amazing. What about the students' reaction to when they'd finished their project?
They loved it. And I think one of the best reactions was when they actually gave it to their buddy as well. And like we talked about, how did you feel when you actually handed that over and saw them light up and saw that love of what you did for someone else? And so they were like, yeah, you feel really good.
Yeah, it's really nice for students. I remember the first time I did a project where the kids had to sew and give it away, and I thought, oh, the kids are going to not want to give it away, but they were all
I was really worried
to give it away. And it was really nice to see the kids were happy to give the project away. And I was the one who was worried about the reaction, but the kids were fine.
Yeah, and I was really worried about that too. I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to make this, and are they going to? But all of them were happy to give it away. They really loved it. But I also think making that little one at the beginning, that was really helpful.
Nice. Yeah.
Because really that was their one to then take away for themselves.
Yeah.
So I still have some that are like, oh, I really wish I get to make one. But another really surprising thing is I've had several parents message and ask for the details.
Wow.
Like, how do I get started? What do I need? Because I have kids frantically sewing at home. So
wow. Oh, that is so nice.
Yeah.
Wow, incredible. Any tips that you'd give teachers who are thinking about sewing with their students who haven't sewn before?
I think just do it. It's actually not that bad, and it's not that scary. Allow for some really good chunks of time as well. So because once the kids get focused, I think it's really nice that you're able to leave them to work on it.
How many lessons did you put aside?
You're going to ask me that.
Only because I know teachers always ask me.
Oh, look, it was a few weeks. I see them 3 times a week, but during that time, we've had some were away, some took longer, some, so it was definitely a few, maybe 4 or 5 hours of it. But having said that, once they got what they were doing, it was a lot quicker. We had one of our year 6 students, she had started with a buddy, done the interview, did her design, but then unfortunately she was away for an extended period of time. And basically when we were starting to wrap it up, I was like, yep, she's not back. We're just going to have to get someone to jump in and make her buddy's one, because we can't have this poor little one missing out. And 2 girls were able to create it in just over an hour.
Wow.
So but I think because they had done it before and they understood. So I think they were able to go, yep, got this. And they looked at her design, drew it all up, sewed it, and I was like, they came back to me and I was like, wait, what?
Amazing. Oh, that's so good. Is there anything else I want to ask you, Kylie, or you want to mention that I haven't, that our teachers might want to know about sewing with their students?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Probably just that, like I said, it's not that bad. Just have a go and do it.
Were they hectic classes?
I had big classes. Like I've got a class of 30, almost 30 and 26. So
it's
they're decent size.
Non-stop.
They're decent sized classes. And use your videos. Absolutely, they were really, really helpful.
Oh, that's so good.
And we did a lot of, just a lot of that repetition, a lot of that. Okay, how do we start off? We put it between the fabric. Yes. What do we need to do? We need to do an anchor stitch. Yes. We did a lot of repetition and just going back over every time they came in, making sure, yes, how do we finish off? So just really trying to instill those things. Well, I was still going, so yeah, possibly. It had frozen. I was like, I'll just keep talking in case it kind of
I just
kicks back in. And then I was like, no, it's definitely kicking back in. And then you disappeared. I was like, nope, you're definitely gone now.
Oh no. So I think I was just asking you, the last question was what preparation you were doing. Is that right? I think I
think we were, yes, I think prep, and we were talking about tips to teachers, I think that was
Okay,
where we
so
were
we
allowed
just
to get preparation. Look, I don't think there was a whole lot of preparation. I think just be organized, have everything you need out, as well, to eliminate the kids coming and asking you for things. So they knew all of the needles were at the front, all of the cottons on the at the table at the front. So everything that they needed was out. So it was rare that they would actually have to come and ask me for something.
okay, that's perfect.
So yeah, just one of those management things, like make it as easy on yourself, because you're doing something that whole lesson. So yeah, just definitely putting those little tips in place, like ensuring that they're asking 3 people before they see you.
Yes, I like that idea.
Yeah, see 3 before me.
Yep, perfect.
As well, the things I won't do: threading needles, tying knots. I will help with these things. Having the kids happy to work together as well. So, like showing them how to ask. How do you go and approach somebody? Sometimes you'll have to wait. It's okay. Or doing those kind of things. And I think as far as the difficulties that I found, it was probably right size thread was probably one.
Yeah.
And I think maybe next time I was thinking about it, I thought maybe I'd put like a piece of masking tape on the desk and go literally measure it from there to there. That's your perfect size. And then that would stop a little bit of that. And the knots are always, but look, most of the kids got it in the end, but tying knots is always a tricky one.
So would you sew again with your class?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, for teachers, it's not that bad. Jump in and do it. Just be prepared. Watch the videos. We watched quite a few of your videos. We stopped, we talked about things at certain points, went back. You're like, look, how did she hide that knot? Okay, there we go. We can see it. And, I guess work with the fact that our kids do like to watch videos. Yeah. So they don't want to listen to me talk all day, but they're really happy to listen to somebody else. So your videos are really helpful, really useful, because we were able to stop, and I was able to fast forward to certain points and go, look, that was how we tackled that. And I think your Zenki design, I think, is really clever. It took away it took away the bits of stuff falling off. Like, I know I've sewed with my own kids, and yet once you start joining things, it's a whole different ball game. Like,
I remember for when I was little, it was like you sewed a softie and it was like the leg here, this here, arms there. And it's like, it became so complicated for me as a little kid. I just didn't do it. So that was one of my design briefs was, you don't have to pin all the arms and legs in. They're there already.
They're there. I think really, really clever. I mean, some of the kids, some found it a little bit difficult to get that concept that we left. Yeah. Like, so when they drew their major shape and then sewed it, we did have a few cut arms and legs off.
There's always those sort of accidents.
We glued them back on. It's fine. And I think as well with the smaller class, with the younger students, I actually drew their main shape for them just to get it big enough, because with my 5/6s, we practiced on A4 piece of paper. So I was like, show me how big yours is going to be. And I still had a lot of them battling, doing it too small, even though they had to leave room for arms or legs or hair. A lot were going smaller than they needed to. So for that year 3 class, I was like, I'm just going to eliminate that out of it. And they're also one of my bigger classes. So they came up to me with their fabric all ready to go, the design, and I just quickly took only a few seconds, quickly drew it on, marked where the hole was so they didn't stitch over it. And on off they went. So that was probably just one thing I put in for that junior class, was just to make sure that I wasn't sending kids back multiple times to redraw them.
Yeah, and not going sewing over their little stuffing line is also a good one, because I've often come back.
Hardly any sewed over it, actually. It was really good.
Oh, so really good.
I was surprised. I did expect a few more to have, gotten into the swing of it and sewn over it, but no, we had hardly any of that. So really, really happy.
That sounds amazing. Kylie, thank you very much for chatting with me today, and
No
happy sewing,
worries.
everyone. It was amazing.